Hello, everyone. This is Austin from Raw Bliss. Today, I am going to be joined by Nathan Von Dutch. He's a juice aficionado. He's done over 300 days of juicing. He's been raw for multiple years at this point. We'll talk about it. I believe over 3 years. And he's also one of the few fruitarians I know that are very built, very muscular, and created a great physique with mostly calisthenics and no weights, mostly just resistance bands and free form calisthenics. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about meditation, perfection mindset, counting calories, percent of fat that we should have in our diet on a raw food diet, best juicer, favorite juice combinations. These are some of the things I have on here. We're going to talk about juice fasting, enemas, the obsession people get with cleansing and how juice fasting can be like addicting. Eating greens, eating nuts and seeds, rebuilding after the fast, stuff like that. So I will resume once Nathan joins in. See you guys. Hello.
Hello. Oh dear God, it's talking to me saying that it's going to be recorded.
We are recording. We are live.
Good, man. Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm very good. Very good. Connection can be kind of dodgy. I'm using 4G right now, but I hope it'll hold up.
Seems to be pretty good. That's a nice backdrop you got there.
Yeah, I'm just sitting outside on the patio, but I had to fix like power and everything because the plug here doesn't work. But man, you won't believe the view I have in front of me. That's even more beautiful. I can even see like the cliffs of North Africa here in the south part of Spain. So it's really nice. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So
how's your day been? It's like 5 p.m. right?
Yeah, it's about 5 p.m. It's been pretty good. It's a rainy day, but I got some sun this morning, so that was nice.
That's nice, man. It's a change from the other few days of rain you had, right?
Yeah, I soaked up as much as I could. I was out there like just naked on my balcony. It's just like give me it all, you know.
It's the best way to tan, right?
Yeah. I don't know, the connection's a bit dodgy on your end.
Yeah, I think so too. I can switch to the Wi-Fi, but someone else is having a call too, so maybe we have to reschedule it. But internet in general in South Spain just stuck balls, man.
That was pretty good yesterday. Let's see.
Yeah, but that's when one person is on the Wi-Fi and now somebody else is having a video call too. So then it's two people on one, and that's not gonna work with this Wi-Fi. How is it now?
It's all right. Here, let me pause.
It's really like robotically.
Okay, Nathan. How old are you, my friend?
I'm 28.
28. And can you give us a little insight on your background, like where you grew up and what kind of foods you ate growing up?
I grew up in the Netherlands, in the central part of the Netherlands, and I basically grew up eating the standard Dutch diet, which basically means bread, cheese, meat, lots of meats, lots of fried stuff, lots of candy and stuff like that too. So basically just a horrible diet to begin with. I'm still amazed that I made it past my youth years. And I was a very skinny kid actually. So like I wouldn't absorb anything. So I was always very skinny and I could just eat and eat and eat and I would never gain weight. Like my favorite food back then was just bread. That's what you eat like 3 times a day. You eat it for basically breakfast, you eat it for lunch, and then you eat it through snacks and stuff. You put peanut butter on it, you put cheese on it, you put I don't know, like ham or pork or let's say chicken on it. You put all kinds of jams like Nutella and stuff on it. That's basically it. You even have like chocolate sprinkles on it or pieces of chocolate or syrup or stuff. So it's just bread, bread, bread. And then at night we would have the standard like potatoes, meat, gravy, some vegetables on the side, and then you would have like the typical whatever takeaways every now and then in the week, and then a lot of fries too every now and then. Like when I got to high school, I would eat like my own food, start making my own food. So it just got worse and worse and worse. So I would say my diet was pretty bad.
Well, it sounds a little bit better than the American diet just because there's not as much like fast food, but still.
Yeah, well, there was fast food, but like that was on a later part when I was like in college. I ate a lot of fast food. Like I was actually a junk food addict. But you know, the American diet is very bad, but then the standard Dutch diet, which isn't that good either. So it's like comparing two extremes, but one is more extreme.
Right.
So I would say it wasn't that bad, but still like a lot of dairy, a lot of cheese, a lot of meat, a lot of breads, like a lot of gluten, like all kinds of things that just stick into your system and plug you up. And I was a really skinny kid, so I wasn't absorbing anything. And
Right.
when I was younger, like I couldn't tolerate any kind of milk at all, not even mother's milk. Um, that was very acidic, or in general, I don't know what's happening there, but I nearly died from that. Like I was nearly killed when I was younger because they tried to give me milk, but that nearly killed me.
You
So my
mean
mother
breast
took me
milk?
to this like neuropath. Yeah, breast milk, and then also
Yeah.
regular milk. A lot of women in the Netherlands, well, now it changed a little bit, but back then my mother told me not many would breastfeed. They would just give you like those milk alternatives, like in the little bottles you buy
Yeah,
and stuff, and like
formula.
milk powders. That, yeah. And yeah, that nearly killed me. And
Wow.
then they took me to this naturopathic doctor, and then I was put on only fruits, vegetables, and like mashed up stuff of that until I started feeling better. And then I got the regular Dutch diet again. So yeah,
Interesting.
pretty intense. Yeah,
So
but
what
in
was
general,
the
I would say the European diet isn't that good. You know, it's not one diet, of course, like the American one. It's different regions too. Yeah, lots of meat, lots of dairy, lots of bread, and all that kind of stuff, and it's not very good for you.
yeah. So at what age and like what was the point where you were just like I had enough? Like what made you want to pursue like a healthier diet?
Well, I got into weightlifting at the age of like 16. When I was working at a local supermarket, that was the first time I wanted to change my physicality and my diet, because at the time I was like skinny like a bone. Like we have a saying in Dutch where you're so thin you can basically paint the inside of a lamppost. Well, that's how thin I was. So I saw this guy at the supermarket where I was working. He was looking like muscular and stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to have that too, right? So just started talking to him, working out with him, starting to eat more and more and more. Still, like more bread, more pasta, more more grains, more meat, more dairy, all that kind of stuff. And I started getting a little bit more muscle. And I just started to apply the throw enough shit at a wall and something will stick method, probably. So I just kept eating and eating and eating. And then I started gaining muscle and muscle, and that got me into a fitness routine. And I kept doing that for years. Then it turned into bodybuilding. Then bodybuilding basically turned into how far can I take it. So I just wanted to see how big can I get, and how consequently that also meant I got fat. And I started eating a lot of junk food. And then at a certain point, I came to a period where my body started breaking down. So I started to lose my hair at the age of about 22, 23. I started to have serious allergies year round, and they call it spring allergies, but then suddenly spring was 4 times a year because I had it all year round. I had like swelling in my toes, like itchy, puffy toes. I had all kinds of pains and aches that you would associate with someone who's 80, right? I had back pain, I had knee pain, I had shoulder pain. My neck kept popping. I had horrible digestion, bloated gut. My skin was a nightmare. Like I had pretty bad sleep. I also had depression, junk food addicted. So at the age of about 24, I was like, this isn't the way to go, man. This is wrecking me. So I started looking for alternatives. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and you know how women are, right? They're very subtle in their way. They want to influence you, or like give you little hints and things. So she was vegetarian at the time. She would leave like a book here and there laying around in my house. Well, I'm like, why is this book here? You know, that's just the way they do it. Like, or just saying like, I saw a very interesting documentary about not eating meat. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. I want to make it.
Right.
And then at a certain point, I got these issues. So I was like, starting to talk to her, like, hey, is there something I can do about this with this vegetarian thing? So I thought, well, I'll drop meat. You know, I've eaten so much meat. At that point, I was eating like meat like 4 or 5 times a day. So I was like, let me try it. And all my issues started like getting less. Like I had less of a spring allergy. I had less pain in my toes that were itchy and swollen and stuff. I had less pain in my shoulder. I had less pain in my knee and my back. So I was like, whoa, that's great. And at that time, I was losing my interest in bodybuilding. So I thought, let's take it a step further. Let's cut out dairy too, because I couldn't really tolerate it anyway. So I became vegan after about 4 or 5 months of vegetarianism.
And this
And
was,
I basically,
you were 22 at the
into
time?
no, 24. This was in 2016.
Okay.
So in early 2016, let's say March, April, I became vegetarian. And then about, let's say August, September, I became vegan right around that time. So I surpassed her in veganism and stuff. And at the time we weren't dating anymore. And then I did like veganism, and all my issues started evaporating like that. Like it became less and less and less. And I was like, whoa, this is great, man. Like, how far can I take this? So I was looking into intermittent fasting. I was looking at all kinds of stuff that I could supplement veganism with. And then in the basically the holiday season, so Christmas of 2016, I had to go to Austria to my family. They live on a mountain, so veganism there doesn't exist. So I had to eat meat again. Like there was nothing else to do. I had to eat meat, and I didn't want to do that. And some things happened there. People drank alcohol and stuff. They got aggressive. And I remember laying in bed at night like, this is not the way life is supposed to be, man. These people are poisoning themselves. I'm poisoning myself again. So I thought I'll go back home and I'll, do my veganism to the T again, and I'll be very structured, and I'll start researching intermittent fasting. And that's how I discovered John Rose. And that was in January 2017. I found one of his videos. Was like, how is this dude 62 at the time looking like this and like cognitively so good? And he tells he's eating only raw. Like, let me watch a couple of his videos. Well, that ended up binging like 30 of his videos. Then it was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna give this a shot. It sounds pretty good. Like, why not? So the next day I went cold turkey into raw veganism, and since then it's just been going on and on and on, and eventually went to juice fasting and where I am now.
Wow.
So it went from bodybuilding diet to raw foods in less than a year.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty intense.
And you haven't had any cooked food since then, or how many, or have you had like?
I've had everything under the sun since then. When I first went raw, I was about strictly raw for about a month and a half. Then I tried some cooked foods to see, can I still eat it? Even John Rose says, do you have to be 100%? He says he doesn't know, but it's a slippery slope or something like that. So I was like, well, let me try it. And every single time I tried it, I didn't feel good. So from March of 2017 until the end of July, I was fully raw. I ate nothing cooked. And then I graduated, and my parents graduated at the university, and my parents wanted to take me for dinner. I was like, fine, why not? So we went to a vegan place. I specifically selected it so I could eat like a vegan curry. That felt like a brick in my stomach, man. Like I still remember it. Like I just felt like my entire life essence was just sucked away to my stomach to digest that stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm not eating this again. So again, I was 4 or 5 months raw. And this cycle kept repeating itself, where I would be fully raw for a couple of months, and then I would go back to cooked food, don't feel good again. I had a couple of episodes of going back to junk food again because that addiction was still there mentally and physically. So this went back and forth for about 2.5 years. And then I came to my first juice fast when I had another of those episodes. And then after that, I did a lot of experimentation between juice fasting to see what it would do, how it would feel. So I've had plenty of cooked food ever since. So although now it has changed. Like I don't know how you have this yourself, but I have zero like need for it, want for it. It's not attractive. It's not something I would even want to entertain. It's not. It has no appeal to me in any sense of the word anymore. Something can still smell good. I can admit that. Like if I walk by some place that has curry or something, it can smell good. I know what it will do to me. Like it's not even worth it.
Yeah, once you think about
I'm
like
at that point now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like when I did my first long juice fast for 120 days, the stuff that came out of me smelled like Satan has released his bowels and started emptying out his unwanted children or something. Like it was horrible. So whenever I smell cooked food, I default back to the smell of that. So I feel like, oh, if I put that inside of me, then it will come out like that again. Like again, so no, cooked food is just a no-go anymore. But I've experimented with everything.
Gotcha. So, what kind of advice would you give to people who are in like a place like Netherlands and want to be like following a raw food diet?
The best advice I could give them is move somewhere South Europe, but that's hard for some people to do. It took me quite a while to go here too. The best advice I could give them is make sure that you know what you need to do in order to get everything you need in all seasons. So for example, there's specific fruits that are abundant in every season, even though most people don't know that.
Right.
Especially if you're in Northern Europe, it's raining half of the year. It's cold 1/4 of the year. If you're lucky, it's less. And you have summer or something that looks like it for about 4 or 5 months. In those 4 or 5 months, you have abundance of fruit. So you can basically eat the melons, you can eat the whatever the papayas even come from Southern Europe. You can eat all kinds of nice, good fruits. So then you can have fun. And after that, in the autumn, you have like kaki. How do you call it in English? Persimmon. You have the
Oh yeah.
persimmons, you have the grapes, apples and the pears come in September, Octoberish. After that, you get some mangoes from South Africa. Then in the winter, you basically have the citrus, and then in spring again, you get like the cantaloupes and stuff like that, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that trickles down. So then you roughly know the seasons what you can work with fruit. And vegetable situation is very good in the Netherlands and in Northern Europe. Like you can almost get good quality vegetables, at least in Northern Europe, pretty well. So unless you're in Norway or something. So if you then know what the fruit seasons are, you can basically structure that so you always know what you can default back to. So you know there is a surplus of that. Then you structure it around that and then get your vegetables in as well. And the most important thing is make sure you eat your greens. There's no way about it in Northern Europe. You just have to use a lot of greens to get your nutrients in, your nutrition. Otherwise, if you just eat the fruit, you're never going to get the best quality. So you're not going to get everything you need. Like I know you eat primarily fruit, I believe, and some vegetables. That's a no-go in Northern Europe. That's not possible. So you really have to structure it well and know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to get everything you need. So you're going to default back to binging or whatever, or trying to supplement it. And if you have to supplement it with like cooked food or whatever, do your best you can, but try to get some structure in it and some knowledge about it.
Sure. So what are some cooked foods that you think are like the healthiest or like the easiest to digest?
That's an interesting question. Well, whenever you go to cooked food, it's always a scenario of cooked food being a bad choice or a worse bad choice, like, or a less of a bad choice. So I would say for me personally, in my experiences, any type of lentil soup works fine. I can digest that. Some kind of vegetable soup, a simple vegetable soup as well. Whenever I go to any kind of beans, like just legumes, just eating them doesn't do well for me. If I eat any type of potato, like regular potato, doesn't do well. Pasta and everything is just glue in your body, so I don't eat that. Bread doesn't work either. Like the only things that could really work for me are the soups, so simple soups, and mashed up sweet potato. They would work very well. I could digest those. They wouldn't plug me up. They wouldn't constipate me. And also, and this was always a pleasant surprise at the beginning, hummus.
Oh, okay.
I could digest that fine, which at the time was like a sent from the gods, because like a gift, because I liked hummus.
Oh yeah.
Now I don't like it that much anymore, but at the time it was really nice. And what I also digested well were like these simple things like peas, something like green peas or something like that. For example, steamed vegetables, they would go okay. So those were the things I could eat. But I was always a bit like, I wanted to be perfect, so I wouldn't even eat those. Even if I had the opportunity, I would just go to the fruits and everything and try to make the best out of that. So I would spend quite a lot of money in the winter months even to get like the good quality fruit. But yeah, those cooked foods for me sort of work. The rest just plugs me up and constipates me. Like after a couple of weeks of them, then it's just constipated city.
I hear you. So when did you first get into juice fasting, and like what inspired you to do that?
What inspired me was John Rose, like 100%. He always talked about juice fasting, but when I discovered him, I was still in university, so I couldn't afford that. I could afford the raw food diet because the system in the Netherlands was a bit different at the time, where you would get like money from the government to basically pay for your housing and also finance your study and stuff like that and buy your food.
Right.
So I could afford that. So I was always interested in it, but I just couldn't afford it at the time. So I basically graduated uni and then I got a job and I started saving money. And when I got to the point of saving up about 4,000 or 5,000 euros, I was like, now I'm going to do it. So when I discovered John Rose, he was always talking about the juice fasting. He told me like in one of his videos, like, yeah, juice fasting will get you where you want to be in 90 days to 120 days. And raw foods might take 3 years. So I was like, oh, nice. I'll just do the raw foods, right? Do some fasting with it and then save money. But as it went along, like I realized like, oh, I have some food addictions still that linger and I can't be perfect raw here. And, it doesn't really work. And I want to get this stuff out. I was very curious too. So I was like, let me try a juice fast. So that's what I advise most people to do when you want to do a juice fast. Save away some money so you can do it without compromises. So that was my approach. So after about 2.5 years of saving up, I could do it. And that was in 2019.
Okay.
And I remember I was thinking in the end of June, it was, I was thinking like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should not. It's a lot of money. It's quite an commitment as well. And then I was sitting at a lake after having one of those episodes again, where I was like having some relapse to cook food. And I was sitting there thinking like, I can't do this anymore, man. I want to get rid of this issue. And then I got bitten by a tick.
Oh,
And like, I was like, well, I mean, this is a sign from the gods, right? Or whatever you want to call it. Like now I'm going to do the juice fast. So then I did. So 2 days later, I started on the 27th of June. And yeah, that was my first ever juice fast. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I watched every single John Rose video I could find, tried every article I could find, and I basically just documented it military style. So I weighed everything. I put everything into juicerecipes.com, which is a website where you can roughly see what you're getting calorically.
great website.
I kept track of everything. Yeah, it is amazing. Take it with a pinch of salt, but it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I documented everything that came out of me, documented everything, how I felt, every exercise, everything I did, like every energy expenditure, everything I documented, because I was going into uncharted territory. And it ended up being a 119-day juice fast. And it was quite a ride. And it was my first ever experience with juice fasting. I tried some juices before, didn't like them. And I actually started out with just plain apple juice. I just drank apple juice because that was like financially affordable, and I also thought I get my calories. I put some spirulina in it to get some green powders in.
Yeah.
Then I realized I could juice watermelon because I didn't know that at the time. I was like, I don't know, Then I juiced watermelon, and then I went on and got the green juices in, and I had some contact with John Rose throughout my juice fast, and he commented on some videos. So my first juice fast was hardcore, man. It was fun, but it was hardcore.
That's pretty amazing. It's just mostly apples and very simple.
It's very simple. And I got at the end, I had apples from my front yard. I was living at what they call anti-squatting. So it's like you're sitting in a building that has no destination plan in the sense of what they want to do with it.
Right.
And there's a law in the Netherlands that if bums break in, you don't have a destination plan, they can stay. They don't have to pay. You can't kick them out. So they put people in who pay a small amount of money to guard the house, basically. So I was living there, and there were fruit trees everywhere. There were apple trees, and there were also walnut trees and almond trees, and all kinds of stuff was there. So I had free apples to juice at the end. And so my juice fast was pretty interesting, but yeah, it was very rudimentary, very basic. And I documented it all on YouTube. And that's how I got a lot of tips about juicing as well, and drinking different types of juices. But
yeah.
In comparison to my first one, my second one was a lot of fun because I knew what I was doing by that time. But the first one was just hardcore military style, everything, documenting everything, making sure everything was a new thing. I had people bugging me about it, and I had tried to explain it to them, but I didn't know that much about it. So thinking back now, I have a lot of respect for myself because that was insane, but it was a lot of fun too.
Cool. So how did you break the juice fast after 190 days?
With pizza.
Seriously?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
No. So how I broke it was actually, I looked up a couple of breaking the fast examples, one of John Rose with the prune test and everything, and then the cycles. Then I had some other guys commenting on my YouTube at the time who did some juice fasting too, but none of them went as long. So I just looked at John Rose's structure and then applied it based on the seasons I was in. I broke my juice fast at the end, at the beginning of fall, at the end of summer, and basically halfway through October, at the end of October. So I didn't have much choice. So what I did was basically what you can see in my complete guide to juice fasting 2 in the 3rd episode. There's an entire section on breaking the fast. For every 4 days that you go, for every 6 days that you go, you take 1 day to break it. Right. So let's say you go 24 days, and of course you divide it by 6. Well, you get 4. You get 6. Then you have basically, I use 4 sections. So if you have a 119-day fast or 120-day fast, it doesn't mean that you have to take let's say 30 days to break it or something. That's ludicrous. So I would say anywhere, if you go a long fast, so anything above 60 days, I would say take 8 to 12 days to break it, and that's what I roughly use. So I would say I'll take about 8 to 10 days to break it, and if I need longer, I default to 12 or maybe 14. At that time, I didn't care that much anymore. I went 190 days anyway. What's 2 more days? So what I did is the first day, I did the prune test, which basically means that you take something very laxative, so soaked prunes. You put 16 ounces of prunes, or about, let's say 280 grams of prunes, and you put them in 8 ounces of water. So that's about, let's see, 400 or 500 milliliters.
I think it's the other way around.
No, it's 250 milliliters, and you have It's 8 ounces of prune, 16 ounces of water. I
Right,
believe.
right.
Ounces still confuse me, man. Just like pounds and like feet and inches. It's a
Eight
mathematical
ounces
roller
is like
coaster.
one cup. I guess we would call it a cup.
All right. Okay, good. Well, we cleared that up. Here we go, man. Juice fasting expert talking here. So it's been a long while since I did that anyway. So you soak them for about 6 to 8 hours. Some say overnight, but I just took 6 hours. Otherwise, the flavor goes into the water. You eat that, and then you're gonna wait. And preferably you eat that at any time of day where you don't have to be out and about, because those things are gonna blast through you if you're pretty clean. And otherwise, they're gonna give you a diarrhea that you will have nightmares about for a couple of weeks. So the thing is, when you're clean, they're gonna be out of you in about an hour. You'll see the first prune movement.
Really?
So when that happens, you know you're clean. Yeah. For me, it took 52 minutes, then they came out.
Oh.
So when you're fairly clean, John Rose says it took him about an hour and 15 minutes or something. Then the first thing came out, and then it comes in stages. So you have the first prune fibers and the prune fiber coming out. Then for me, it was about a couple hours later, the rest came out. So then you know everything, there's no obstructions there. Everything is moving through properly. If there's obstructions there, then it simply means that you still haven't cleaned everything out, or your colon is bent out of shape or something. So that way you know if you're clean. Now there's many variables there, and I'll talk about that again in my juice fasting complete guide. But by that time I knew, well, I'm clean, but I still thought I failed it because I thought everything had to come out in like an hour, which I didn't understand. So then John Rose commented on my videos, and I was like, oh God, I did pass the thing. So I was having like ideas that I had to go longer. When you pass that, then you go on to the second section, which is basically juicy fruit. So that's either 2 or 3 days of juicy fruit. And then what you're going to do is basically eat it and see how it moves through you. So what you do is you eat the fruit as much as you can. So don't try to stuff yourself. Then you're going to get like a balloon belly or whatever. It's not going to digest well. It's going to feel weird at the first couple times because you're having a pressure in your side of you again, like something digesting. There's food in there again.
Like
you
a
probably
baby.
notice yourself.
Like a baby eating
Yeah,
food.
it feels very weird. Like it feels very weird because there's not the pressure of the juice. It's like food. So for 2 to 3 days, you basically eat nothing but juicy fruit. So no bananas or avocados or whatever, just juicy fruit to see how that moves through you. And you jumpstart your system again to start digesting. And you basically keep a notice of how long does it take to go through me? How does it come out? Is it soft? Is it formed? What does it smell like? What does it look like? And on the side, you still drink your juice to get your calories and your nutrients. So you drink your fruit juice and you drink your green juices because you're not going to get enough from those meals. Now, the first 2 to 3 days, you do one fruit meal after a long one. And when that goes well, then you could go on to the second basically section, because the prune test I don't see as a section on itself. So if the first section with the juicy fruit for 2 to 3 days, one meal, then you go on to 2 meals. So then you can do 2 juicy fruit meals and see how that goes. So you can structure that the way you want to. Just keep in mind that you have to have some specific time between it so that it can still digest, because if you're eating all day long, you're not digesting. So then you can see how does it move through me? Does it all digest? What happens to it? Still drinking juice on the side. When all of that goes well and everything comes out, then you can start adding your first salad. Can be a very simple salad, couple pieces of lettuce with some tomatoes, some cucumbers. Ever since breaking the fast like over a dozen times, I found that cucumber noodles are the most effective. They're just very juicy. They're almost a fruit, but they do give you the crunch that you like. You can put some lettuce with it, some tomatoes, some salt or pepper, whatever you want. And then you can eat that at the end of the day next to your 2 fruit meals or 1 fruit meal, whatever you want to do meal structure wise. And again, you can see how does it come out of me? How does it digest? How does it smell? Does it come out? If anywhere in this system it doesn't come out, you just go back to the previous section. So let's say you ate the salad, doesn't come out, go back to the fruit, wait for it to come out. If you have a complete blockage, just go back to the juices and then pick up from there again. If the salad goes well, you can start adding things to it, make it a little bit more complicated. And after that, you're basically good to go, and you can start adding fats or like bananas, less dense or more dense and less juicy stuff and like that. And then you're done.
Definitely. Wow. So for your first juice, your 190-day juice fast, the
119.
119. Oh, sorry. And
not 190.
So that went pretty smooth. You didn't have any troubles there?
Oh, I had some troubles.
Well, why don't you tell us about that?
In the sense, well, the thing is, if I look back at my life and what I ate for about 6 to 8 years, I ate like an obese idiot. Like I just ate junk food 4 or 5 times a day. I was in uni and I would order at you had something that was called delivery at home. It's like a website called thuisbezorgd in Dutch. and you can place an order at a restaurant, and then they basically deliver it at your home.
Right.
It was so bad that as soon as they saw my name, I just had to send them a text message, and they would know what I wanted, like by default, and they would just send it to me, and they give me free stuff and like that. And if they saw me walking in the city, they knew who I was and stuff like it. So it's pretty bad. Like I was addicted to it. So at the point when I started transitioning to raw diet, I was just amazed I was still alive and that my body was still doing well. Because when I roughly transitioned to my diet, like pretty rough, like the first 2 weeks, I had cleansing reactions galore, like really, really bad. I had my spring allergies that came back with a vengeance. Like I had such teary eyes, itchy throat, itchy nose. Like I couldn't sleep from it, like mucus pouring out of every hole for about 2-3 weeks. Then it was gone and never came back. And I had winter toes. And people don't know what it is. Just Google that. It's basically like toes where your circulation is so bad because you're so acidic and you're basically your blood is so thick that your toes get swollen red. They're very puffy. They're very pressured. So it hurts to touch them, and they itch, but it hurts to touch them. So you can't scratch them, right? So
Yeah.
it's just so painful. And I remember having to take like hot and cold showers at night because I just couldn't sleep from it. So that was about 2.5 weeks. And after that, I had no cleansing reactions anymore. So when I went into my juice fast, I was like, well, I had a pretty rough start with my raw food. So I'll probably have a pretty rough start with my juice fasting, and then it will be done. But when I started juice fasting, nothing happened at first. I had no cleansing reactions. I had no rough moments. I had a painful spot above my belly button where something was releasing in my colon. Like I have diverticuli, which are like little holes where something is sitting in the side of your colon. If you don't know that, Google that if you're watching this. So those were all holes plugged up. So I would feel like a little pain here and there. I would massage my colon, it would come out fine. And then day 40 came. And I remember it very vividly because I was like, I have no kidney filtration. Like I would check my urine, my kidneys were filtering and stuff like that. And day 40 came, and I was like, let me do lemon ginger blast. That supposedly is very good for filtering your kidneys, right? So I read the thing like from, who was it? Some guy, Corona's name, I think. I can't remember the name, but I read his recipe. That's him. So I read like his recipe, and the thing I did not read was where he suggested just try 2 glasses at first to see how you respond. I took 64 ounces and drank that straight away. So it was kind of rough. And then that night I couldn't sleep. And the night after I couldn't sleep. And then on day 41 to 42 that night, I felt like there was a piston engine just turning and turning and turning in my lower abdomen, like just turning and turning and turning. And it was hot and it was glowing and it was like cramping up. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? I have no idea. So I left like a comment on John Rose's comment section, but he didn't respond. So I was spacing out in bed and like it was 4 or 5 a.m. I was like, I can't sleep, man. I'll just give up. So I texted my work at the time, like I can't go out, like pain in my lower abdomen. And they were like, you're killing yourself with your juice fast, your food. And I was like, no, it will be fine. And so at that time I was like flipping out because I was like, what am I doing to myself? Am I hurting myself? And then that morning came and I had the most insane kidney filtration in my urine I've ever seen. It was like almost painful getting it out of my PP. So that was the first moment where I was like, whoa, this is intense. I've never experienced anything like it. Then I had smooth sailing again for about 20 days. And then I started getting very old releases of stuff sitting inside my colon. So basically when we eat all this stuff, what I talked about before, the sticky stuff and all the things that take too long to go through us, we get layer after layer build up in our colon, and stuff basically stays about because we have 6 meals a day going through us and it's very old and sticky. So it gets piled up. When that stuff starts to release, it's like a sore muscle that you're opening up, right? It feels painful when you open it up and eventually it gets better. So imagine your colon being like basically placated and then it's releasing. So that can hurt too. I started getting stomach aches like you won't believe, man. Like I was just curled up in bed almost crying because that's how bad my stomach aches were. I needed a hot water bottle on it. And every single time that happened, old stuff came out of me. And I mean very old. Like it would just smell like a demon. It would just look like it was something out of Alien versus Predator that had been sitting inside of me trying to, I don't know, reproduce itself or something. So I was basically debilitated by stomach aches, like for 40, 50 days straight. And at the same time, I had a canker sore episode. And when I say sore episode, I mean things that were like this big on the underside of my lips and on my gums and everything. And when my kidneys started filtering, that stuff came out too, which was very interesting to me because I thought my kidneys are filtering, so it shouldn't come out of my mouth, right? So I had that for 40 days and it were very painful. And I also had shoulder injuries from bodybuilding and a knee injury and an ankle injury. And those sometimes felt like there were knives stinging in it, like something was releasing, something was pressuring, something was building up and then letting go again. And after my juice fast, like they felt like I had a new shoulder, I felt like I had a new ankle, and I felt like I had a new
Amazing.
knee. So most of those things I never shared in videos because there was not much to share about except for me laying in bed and like cursing myself because I was feeling bad, you know.
Yeah.
And there was one episode, was pretty late into my juice fast, where I had such intense cramps in my lower abdomen that I was just laying in bed crying because it was so painful. And I thought of filming that, but I ended up not doing it. And all that went through my head was, what is coming out of me now is painful for me, but I'll live. But the animals I ate gave the ultimate sacrifice to become the very thing giving me pain now. So it was like a karma thing, you know, like going through my head, like they were killed for that, but I'm just having to suffer to get it out again. So it was pretty interesting. And those are the most intense things I experienced throughout my juice fast. And if I hear some of my clients talking about it, like what they experienced, it's nothing, but to me it was pretty intense. I had a pretty smooth juice fast in that sense.
That's great. And
Well, at the time it was not, but now it is.
yeah, that's what I mean. As far as like green juices go and like vegetable juices, how much of those do you implement in your juice fast?
It really depends on the season you're in. You basically have two components when you're when you have juice fasting. You basically have like, you want to get calories and you want to get nutrients. If you don't get the calories in, you basically have a basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories your body needs when you're just laying on the couch all day and doing nothing.
Right.
That's just to support your tissues. You want to cover that with your primary juices. So I always say drink 4 liters or 128 ounces or 4 quarts, whatever you kind of measurement you use, of fruit juices to cover those calories. That can be anything from watermelon, that can be anything from oranges, that can be grapes, it can be apples, whatever's high in calories, you can use that. And then to that, you add green juices for the nutrients, because fruit juices don't give you everything you need in the sense of proteins, amino acids, minerals, vitamins, stuff like that. Although you can get very close with some, like melons. So green juices are very important, but I don't like that many green juices. They don't taste good to me. Still don't. Some people think that's pretty weird because some like them, but I just don't, man. I just don't like them. Some I can manage if I mix them with fruits. So green juices are very important for the nutrients, because if you don't give your body the calories, it will start burning itself for calories. So it will default to fat when you're doing something for a longer period of activity. So let's say you're walking for an hour, hour and a half, you do it at a slow pace, then your body goes to fat. But if you're constantly moving around and doing some intense stuff, it will go to carbs. If you don't get the calories, you don't get the carbs. So your body's going to grab the protein and convert that to carbs. So you're going to burn your own muscle mass. So you want to drink enough calories with the fruits, and then you want to add the nutrients in to make sure that you maintain your lean body mass as well. So that's where the green juices come in, and they're very important.
So typically you'd say like 1 quart or 1 liter a day.
It really depends on your own needs. Like if you're drinking a lot of melons, like this is again where the season thing comes in. If you're juice fasting in the winter, you're going to go to apples, carrots, stuff like that, and more vegetables. So you're going to be safe anyway. But I would say for me, 4 to 5 liters or 4 to 5 quarts of fruit juice is what I did. And then I would add on that, based on what I drank, vegetable juices and based on what I did. So that would be about 1.5 liters to 2 liters. So about 64 to, anywhere between 64 to a little bit over that ounces, or two quarts.
Sure.
And then it can be anything that you like. So it can be like, for example, some people drink 2 liters of cucumber juice, right? There's not much in there. There's no calories in there, not much nutrients. So you have to figure out which to get. So I would usually say the ones to go for, if you want calories from your green juices, but carrots, very high in calories. They're very high in protein too, and a lot of nutrients. So it's a wonder juice. You have the calories from the fruit, but also nutrients from the vegetables. Then you can go to like leafy greens, so spinach, kale, all kinds of other lettuces. They're good. You can use cabbages. You can use sweet potato. You can use celery. You can use cucumber. When you want some more like a salsa taste type thing, you can use like sun-dried tomatoes. Make sure they're not in oil. You can start using onions. You can start using garlic. You can start using I don't know, all kinds of things you like to add. Just see how you respond to it.
Definitely. And have you ever implemented like flax or hemp oil in your juice fast?
Yeah, in the beginning I did, because your body needs about 10 to 15 grams of fat a day, and then the essential fatty acids, so omega-6 and 3. If it doesn't, you can get some problems with your liver and also your gallbladder. So it's very important to do that. But if you drink enough vegetable juices, so let's say you drink 2.5 liters of that, then you usually get about 10 to 15 grams of fat anyway, so you don't really need that much. But to be safe, you can add that, because, for example, hemp oil has a very good ratio between omega-3 and 6. So that's a very good option. That's what I I used in the end. In the beginning, I used flax oil, but that taste just doesn't suit me. But I didn't know better. But hemp oil is good. What I also like is walnut oil. It's also a good
Oh,
omega-3 to 6 ratio, and it just tastes so good, man. I wouldn't even put it in my juice. I would just take a spoon and like spoon it like that. It's so tasty. And other than that, some people use like olive oil. I'm not a fan of that, but you could use it if you want. But omega-3 and 6 are very important. So if you're not getting any green juices in, you're basically doing watermelon or whatever, then highly advisable to use that.
definitely. And building muscle on juices. Do you have experience with building muscle?
Yes, I have. You can build muscle on juicing. You can also lose muscle on juicing. That's usually what happens to most people. They
Right.
don't drink enough juice. They don't really use their muscles. So on a raw food diet or on juicing, it's basically the same thing. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So a lot of people, when they're juicing, don't want to work out. They don't feel like it. They want to rest. They want to heal their body. Maybe they move a bit, swim, walk, do something with their girlfriend at night or whatever, or their boyfriend. I don't know. So, that's more like not really using your muscles the way it should be. So you can lose muscle on a juice fast, but you can also build it if you stimulate it properly. So if you train it and then give it what it needs, then it will grow and can grow. So I have a couple of videos on it where I'm working out on juicing, but building muscle on juice fasting isn't as effective as it is on raw foods or eating in general.
Sure.
You're not going to get everything you need on a juice fast, but you're going to get enough to sustain yourself to get the primary goal done, which is cleaning yourself out. But it can be done.
Awesome. And what about enemas? When would you use an enema on a juice fast?
I really don't like enemas, man. Personally, I don't like the feeling, but I have used them once when I felt that I had something that just didn't come out. It was about between day 40 and 50 on my first long juice fast. I had stuff coming out of me at the time was so sticky that if it was in the toilet, like the toilet plateau, like we have plateaus, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but yeah, the plateau in the toilet, flush it 4 times, there was still stuff sticking there. So I thought like it's sticking on a toilet bowl, right? Like it's gonna stick in my body too. I just couldn't get it out. I was drinking 7-8 liters, almost 2 gallons, and I couldn't get it out. So that's when I used an enema, and that's when it's good to use one, because with the enema you have basically the fluids coming from the other side, not like flushing down, but flushing up through your bumhole. So it can loosen things up. So it's very good when you feel you have a blockage. You can have a rectal plug where some fecal matter has loosened. It became a big ball, and it can go through the exit if you have a very tight sphincter, if you know what I mean. So it can get through. So then you can use it to break it up and get it out. It's also very good for cleansing reactions. I don't really know the principle behind it, but whenever somebody has a cleansing reaction and they do an enema, it basically usually lightens them or get it out of your body. It's also very good when you're dehydrated, because your colon basically sucks up all the water from your food as well, your small intestines too. So when all that water goes in, it sucks it up too. And a coffee enema is very good too to stimulate the liver, so it can release stones and stuff like that, or help with detox. When you use a coffee enema, it basically goes into the artery that's in the anus, and that goes straight to the liver, and then you can basically stimulate that. So that's a good option too. And coffee enemas are very good when you have like inflamed bowels or stuff, because it can lighten the pain. And if you're really hardcore, you can put like I tried this once. I'll never do it again, but it is effective. You can put lemon juice or like something else astringent in your enema, and then use that. But I don't have the balls in my colon to take that, but you could use that.
Right on. Okay. Let's see. So do you count calories?
Oh, there's one more. There's one more thing with enemas though. A lot of people use them like a crutch. They're not drinking enough juice.
Right.
They're not massaging their colon. They're not exercising. They're not satisfying their body's needs. So that's the problem, and they'll slowly waste away and get skeleton syndrome. But they're also not drinking enough volume of juice to rehydrate the stuff to get it out. If you're drinking less than 4 liters or a gallon, usually you're not gonna get enough hydration in there to get the stuff out at a good pace. So they'll use enemas to supplement it. So they use it as a crutch. When you start doing that, the body just is like, well, the enemas will do it, right? So I'm not gonna do squat. So then you're gonna become dependent on the enema. So you have to watch out with that. Doesn't mean that you can do one enema every day for a week or something, or every couple of days or whenever you need it, but just be careful.
Yeah, I think some people, it could end up like a form of bulimia. People go out and binge out, and then they're like, oh, I'll just do an enema and then I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah, but people use juice fasting for that too. So They just eat
Definitely.
like Shrek, and then they go to juice fasting for a week, and then everything is supposedly fixed.
So like outside of juice fasting, do you count calories?
No,
You don't. Okay. So what's like a
in the beginning I did.
typical day of like eating?
The, really depends on where I am. But
Right.
in the beginning I did, because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing with raw foods. I basically went raw foods overnight.
Mhm.
So I went from eating like a vegan cooked food to raw food. So I was like, what do I do now? Right? I have no idea. So I kept track of everything, weighed everything, and put it in chronometers. And I usually advise all my clients who go in a raw food transitioning program with me in my mentorship stuff, keep track of everything. So for the first 2 to 3 months, we keep track of most things, because by then, after that, you basically know of everything. Like, this is about this amount of calories. This is roughly this amount of calories. This is what I roughly need to get what I need and make sure that I sustain myself. And after that, it's just unconscious, subconscious, and you can just go with it. So in the beginning, it's very important, because then you know what you need, because you probably notice too, most raw foods are not that calorically high or nutritionally dense in
Right.
comparison to cooked foods. You can eat a lot more volume of that. It's all relative to each other, of course. But in the beginning, I did, and after that, I just never did, because then I came into this position, especially after my juice fasting, where um, I knew what my body wanted, and it could tell me, so I could eat this amount of food, and I was like, I need a little more, I need a little less. So that's where I am at now. But in the beginning, I definitely counted calories. If we
Yeah.
look at a default day, I usually use 2 meals a day. So one meal is a big fruit meal. So I'll structure it based on water content. So if I can find an abundance of fruit where I can mono meal, let's say I eat only papayas, then I'll eat 10 papayas or something like that. That will be my first meal. And then my second meal will be a big salad. And if I've been very active, I put some fruit before or after, depending on its water structure. Let's say my first meal is mixed. I have, for example, papaya, then some cherry moya, and then some banana or something. I'll eat the papaya first; it's highest in water content. Then the cherry moya, and then the banana.
Right.
That's how I structure that. And my first meal usually is anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 calories. And then that's what I call the calorie horse. That's what I ride in my first meal. And then the second meal is the nutrient horse. And I basically just use a big salad with lots of greens and stuff like that
Oh, okay.
to
I
get
like that.
protein and nutrients and stuff. Yeah. And sometimes I eat 3 times a day. I'll have like a snack in between them when it's really hot or something, or if I'm feeling like it. And yeah, and I put my fats in the last meal as well.
So how much that goes into my next question actually. Like some people do like 10% fat, 15, like how much do you do?
In the beginning, I wrote everything down right from the beginning, so I still can see my notes. They're in the Netherlands at my parents' house, but I recently was there, so I revisit them again. I have a video on my channel too where I go over it. In the beginning, when I didn't know what I was doing and I was still a bit protein obsessed, I would eat as much as 100 to 120 grams of fat a day.
Yeah.
So I would eat a lot of nuts. I would eat like a lot of that, and I still don't know how that went that well, because my digestion improved at the time. So at that time, I think I was like 40% fat or something. Didn't feel that good, but it was fine compared to where I came from. Then after that, I basically defaulted by nature to about 15 to 20%. And now I'm
Yeah.
usually hovering anywhere between 10 to 15 if I calculate it and look at it. That's what I feel best with. So the longer I've been doing this, the more I go to lower amounts of fat. But it really depends on the day. Like if I've been more active, I like more fat. And if I've been not been that active, I use a little less. But I remember times when I was eating like 4 or 5 big avocados, because that's what I apparently wanted.
Yeah.
And now maybe one avocado and I'm fine. Like I don't eat that many fats anymore.
Awesome. And what about like
But
nuts or
also,
seeds?
also, that's what I wanted to talk about now. Good.
Okay, great.
Like nuts and seeds, they don't digest that well for me.
Right.
The only nuts I can really digest well are walnuts and Brazil nuts. The other nuts just, they don't ring with me. Seeds as well. I only use them in dressings, and that's how I use eat most of my fats. And I say I, but usually I don't make the recipes. I'm not that big of a culinary mastermind here. But put the fats in the dressing, and that way it's easily digestible too.
Hmm.
But yeah, nuts, only Brazil nuts and walnuts. And I can soak other nuts and digest them well, but then they just taste like slob to me. I don't like that. I like the crunchiness. And seeds, um, no. Are we like still there or not?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, I got a call from a client, which my MacBook defaults to calling on my laptop, so then it just cruises over. That's all right. So where was I? Nuts and seeds. So with seeds, is for me, it's just I don't like them that much, man. They're not that tasty. Like I like some sesame seeds here and there. Yeah, that's about it. I really like them.
So your main
They don't
fat
really
source,
to me. Main fat source is avocado
yeah,
and some leafy greens,
and
and
greens.
sometimes I put some seeds like hemp seeds or whatever in like a dressing. That's it.
Gotcha. And so how often do you eat greens? Do you eat greens like every day?
Every day, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And okay, a few questions here about let's see. Fork or spoon?
Spoon.
And left or right?
Left, because I'm left-handed.
Sour or spicy?
Spicy.
Garlic or onion?
Onion.
Beach or jungle?
Beach.
Dance or sing?
Neither.
Favorite
Is that option?
vegetable?
Oh, that's a hard one. That's a hard question. Carrot.
Carrot, that's a good one. Favorite smell?
Cherry moya.
Oh.
Like a ripe cherry moya.
Favorite destination?
Happiness.
Okay. What's your favorite part about eating a fruit-based diet?
Energy, man.
Energy.
Like I have so much energy. Like the energy I spend on digesting it is like nothing compared to the energy I get from it and I can spend on it. And it just is a diet that keeps giving. I get energy from it. I get good skin from it. Like I get a good life from it. It's like high vibrational stuff you put in yourself. You hydrate yourself, and it's basically giving me the life that I have now. So it's like endless giving back.
Yeah,
I love
definitely.
it. Yeah. How about you?
Oh, I 100% agree. Yeah, and just eating a lot.
Yeah. You can eat a lot. Yeah, that's cool.
Like you said, like 10 papayas, like, it's good times.
Yeah, it is.
What kind of water do you drink?
We have like filtered water over here. And I will only drink filtered water if I have it available. Otherwise, I won't drink water.
Hmm.
I usually only use water when I want to like rinse my mouth after a meal, or if it's really hot and I'm really thirsty after workout or something. Other than that, I usually get all my fluids from foods. That's another great thing about raw foods and a lot of fruit. If you put it in chronometer, sometimes I get like 5 to 6 liters of fluids from my foods. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm never really that thirsty. So, but if that, then I would use any kind of filtered water. And other than that, what I love is spring water, man. Just going in the mountains and finding some spring water.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, it is.
And we wanted to talk about like this obsession with purity, or like obsession with cleansing, like being super clean.
Yes.
So why don't you
Yeah.
tell me about that?
Well, for the most part, John Rose was my inspiration. And I think for most people, when they see John Rose, they see this unattainable guru, god, demigod kind of guy that is
Right.
like the perfect raw foodist and the perfect knowledgeable guy. So for me, like I'm a perfectionist. So for me, it was always like emulating him in the beginning, like, oh, he does this, then I can make my own version of this and try to achieve what he has. But I was living in the Netherlands, so it wasn't going to happen anyway. But for a long time, and it wasn't even up until recently, like very recently, and I said this in one of my recent videos on YouTube too, I tried to be the perfect raw food and juice fasting demigod. Like I tried to be perfect, but perfection doesn't exist. What's perfect today isn't perfect tomorrow. So I would want to have the perfect digestion. I would want to have the perfect abs. I would want to have the perfect raw food diet. I would want to have the perfect nutrition. I wanted to have the perfect image. I wanted to have the perfect this, perfect that, perfect such, perfect. So, and I got stuck in that, man. Like if my digestion, for some reason, I would structure my meal a little bit differently or whatever, add some more complexity to a salad. and my food would arrive, I'm not kidding, 2 hours later. I was like, oh my God, everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. And then I would have like days where I wouldn't eat as much because I was active or doing something, and I would feel like a failure. I would have days where I wouldn't work out because something else happened. I would feel like a failure, or I couldn't get my greens in because of X, Y, Z. Then I would feel like this or that, or my digestion wasn't as good. So I wanted to default back to juicing and have perfect digestion again, because that's what I'm talking about. And that just kept going and going and going. And that's a mentality I recognize with a lot of people when they go to raw foods or juicing, is that this is something that can revitalize you, and this is something that can give you a lot of good physical capabilities and good physical mechanics that work wonders, but it's never going to be perfect anyway. So
Right.
then you get stuck into this mentality where you use either juicing as a crutch or fasting as a crutch. You take both to the extremes. um, it can be destructive. And looking back now, I was obsessed with all these things that in the end never were perfect anyway. So I
Yeah.
was obsessed with an illusion that wasn't there, which is pretty funny, to be honest. And that's what I realized recently. Like, all the obsessions I had were good in a sense because they got me where I am now, and I learned a lot about it. But if I was just chilled back like 25% with it, like just take it a little step back, then it probably would have been a lot more enjoyable. And that's why, for example, my second Juice Fest was a lot more enjoyable, because it wasn't this military hardcore, I have to invade this country and, it wasn't that mindset. Like,
Yeah.
it was just chilling, relaxing, juicing, which was very nice. And I also had this thing where I was comparing myself to others. For example, one guy would have I don't know, a perfect digestion, then so should I. Or this guy has the perfect whatever Ecuadorian body somewhere, living in a rainforest, and I had to be that too. Or some guy was living in Costa Rica eating the perfect papaya, and I have to be that too. And that was personal for me. I think a lot of people have it too. And the thing with juicing is that once you do a long juice fest and you document it on YouTube, and you say all these things like it cleans me out, it healed this, it healed that, then that is a certain image you create with it, right?
Yeah.
Like of yourself and of the juicing. But if you let that go for like a little, then you're like, oh, but I have this image, so I have to uphold that. And that's why
Right.
I went with all these things. And I have the same thing with family and friends. Like, you tell them about this wonderful thing, and then if something doesn't go well once, then that they're like, oh, well, that's bullshit. So
Yeah.
you
Oh,
keep that going
you're
in your
not
mind.
perfect.
And
You're not perfect, Nathan.
yes, yes. So I would get like cleanse reactions every now and then when something happened. They're like, yeah, but your diet is perfect, right? Why are you having cleanse reactions? I'm eating shit and drinking alcohol and I'm fine. Your diet is bullshit.
Right.
And that would infuriate me, because I knew it was, but finally I've been able to let these things go. So I've gone my ways with that. And also, my personality is extreme. So my first juice fest was instantly a long one, and I documented everything, did it very hardcore. My other juice fasts were purely for experimentation. So would it eat garbage cooked food again or decent cooked food again, let it sit in my body for 2 months, and then do a juice fast again to see how it would come out. I would break my fast in horrible ways to see what would happen, so I know if my clients did it. So I would be all over the place. And that was also an obsession with cleansing and everything. I wanted to know everything, but I did that in like a very short time period. So that again went all over the place. That doesn't give you a baseline. So yeah, those can be, and that's what I would warn people against. Like, have a little bit more stability in there and a little bit more of a flow, instead of trying to be perfect, which you can be.
Yeah. Rather than like
It'll save you a lot of headaches.
a lot of idealism and like idolatry with like the Dr. Morris and the John Rose and like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
like end goal that they're sprinting towards the end goal rather than like taking a balanced approach.
yeah. I would call it detox, until death. Basically, that's what the
Right.
mentality you're getting. But what we forget is that John Rose is what, 60. It took him 30 years to get where he is now, standing on his YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Robert Morris is like what, 70 or something, or God knows how old he is. It took him years to get there too, right? Like, even if you look at a John Rose or all the other raw food gurus or whatever you call it, John Rose, for example, mentioned it took him 5 years to get rid of cooked food. I tried to do that in 5 months, and then I was disappointed with myself. And looking back now, I'm like, yeah, no wonders.
Right.
Or like, he has what, 1,200 days or something of juice fasting under his belt. I have about 350 now. Like, there's no way I'm gonna get to that level. So the expectations you put upon yourself based on others can also create these things. So But yeah, once you discover this, you really just want to make it your own and really want to get there. But sometimes it just takes time.
Sure. And
Mm.
I know you have this on your YouTube video, your YouTube channel, but can you explain like your daily workout routine?
I actually typed the video this morning of it. My daily workout routine has changed quite a lot throughout the years. Like I mentioned before, like I've been a very skinny kid. So my ego was always bashed, you know, like when I had a girlfriend, I felt like the girlfriend walked away with me instead of me walking away with her. I would always get thrown into the lockers and into the showers at the when it was time for gym at school, like with sports and everything. So at a point, I just got fed up with that. So I wanted to build muscle and, you know, be the muscular guy. Um, and that ego thing I dragged along for quite a while, even until my juice fasting. And then I basically got what I call a bitch slap brick, where there was no way about it. I'm gonna lose muscle and I'm gonna lose a little weight when I was juice fasting because I'm not gonna be able to lift that way. And then my workouts also changed from being very muscular and big to just being able to have good posture and being able to have a good functioning body. And then in between, I still struggle with the ego thing. So what I'm working on now is like what you can see on my channel too is basically what I do is I lift weights or do calisthenics or some kind of band workout 2 to 3 times a week, depending on how I feel. And that's the strength part of it. So that's to stimulate the muscles, to keep my muscles on me, maybe grow here and there, also improve my posture. And then other than that, I stretched almost every day, or I aim to do that, which doesn't always work. And I move a lot. Like every day I go for a walk or I'm out gardening or I go for a swim or whatever. And the other times that I do my yoga, my stretching or whatever, I focus on posture. So I want to improve my posture. So that's basically how I train now. So most people think when you work out for muscles, you need to work out a lot throughout the week. I never did that. Not even when I weighed 225 or something, or 100 or almost 100 kilos. I just worked out like 3 times a week. That's it. So
Awesome. So yeah, you're breaking a lot of
so basic and simple.
those stereotypes.
Always
Like
did
you
that.
gotta work every day.
Yeah. Well, you could, but then you can't do that much. And I like to enjoy myself with my workouts. So for me, it's shifted to like enjoying it and it having a good purpose instead of wrecking my body, because that's what I did very long. But yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about that, just as with juice fasting or raw foods. There's also the misconception that you can't work out on a raw food diet because you're skinny and you have no testosterone, or I don't know, you're gonna fall apart or you can't sustain yourself or whatever. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I think you prove them all wrong.
Well, you too. You're still alive, right? People would say you probably would be dead by now.
I am still alive. Um,
Indeed.
let's see. Aside from diet, what are some of the like healing protocols that you practice?
I would say the biggest ones I implement on a daily basis is intermittent fasting, but that came naturally to me. I never ate many times in a day in my youth. Like I would eat maybe 2 times, and usually I would just have two meals. So my first meal is around noon, and the second meal is around 6-7 p.m. That's it. And then the rest of the day I don't eat. So that's a very big part of it because you give your body a little bit of a rest. It can digest everything, clean some stuff out. Other than that, I do 1 day of juicing a week just to give my body some rest and rehydrate. I like that. Of course, I've done juice fasting, but I don't do that on a regular. And the other one is just moving my body a lot. So moving, relaxing. And then the biggest component is mental work. There's two facets to, you know, going on this journey, the hero's journey, or whatever you want to call it, is people come from a physical standpoint. So their body is basically wrecked by their lifestyle and whatever happening in society. They want to heal that. Or they're coming from a mental standpoint where they're like, the society standards and society's norms no longer apply to me. So I want to change that. And then they come to this diet. So for me, I came from a physical standpoint. I was like, yeah, I know society is bullshit and many things are a lie. That's all good. But I want to look good. I want to feel good. And that's how I discovered John Rose. And that's what I want to achieve with it. So that was my main goal with it. That's where I implemented all the things, juice fasting, raw foods. And now I'm at this point where I'm implementing more of a mental oriented, let's say, health technique, where I'm focusing more on accepting myself, who I am, and loving myself, and exploring more about myself, traumas, and all kinds of fears and things that were deeply rooted in myself. And that's the thing I'm busy with most throughout the days and weeks now, and what I've recently done as well. And that's basically supplementing the physical thing. And you see the other way around with a lot of people where they have the mental thing and then the physical thing supplements that. So That's where I'm at right now. So most of it is mental. So working on affirmations, manifesting things, self-love, writing things down, improving myself, basically focusing more on me to improve that than focusing so much on others, what I used to do and try to be perfect.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Which is
noticed.
basically running away from yourself, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, I noticed you don't spend much time on social media. And how do you think
Mm.
that affects your health?
Well, social media, I like it on one hand because I can connect with a lot of people. Like we talk on Instagram before, like self, like this love hate relationship with social media. Like I love it because I can connect with you or other people and can share my things, but I also despise it because Instagram is particularly is just fake to me. Like it's just fake. People just try to put the perfect image there, the perfect photo, the perfect this.
Right.
So that just doesn't vibe with me. That's why I like YouTube a lot, because I can actually tell a story in a video and I can share good and bad moments and not just like a little snippet. But I used to be more active on Instagram until I just lost interest in it. Like Facebook never appealed to me anyway, so I don't have that. Try to make an account, but they banned me for some reason. I don't know why. But Instagram just doesn't appeal that much to me anymore. Like I don't like to spend that much time on phones or like watching videos or stuff anymore. I have no interest in, to be honest, watching that many people, other people's lives. You know, like I just have interest in living my own. And I think that when you're in a period in your life where you are more or less not working on yourself, you're going to focus more on others. Like what are they doing and what are they doing? And if you're not happy with your life, you're going to focus on other people's lives to see if they have happiness. And I've gotten to a point where I'm just so content with everything going on in my life and I'm just happy with it. And I really vibe where I am right now. So I don't really feel like watching other people's lives that much.
Exactly.
And social media comes to that. Like the only thing I still like is YouTube because I like a good laugh and I like humor. So even on YouTube, I still watch people that are in the fitness community or bodybuilding community that have good content with a lot of humor, even though they're like butchering chickens, eating them. I don't really watch those parts, but I just love watching those things, you know, they give me inspiration. I like to laugh, but I like watch your videos. I like to watch Viva Collective's videos, John's videos whenever he uploads every blue moon. Robert Morris, I don't really watch that much anymore. Like, I think also what it has to do with I used to watch a lot of documentaries and read a lot of stuff about the world and conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. And at this point, I'm like, I have a pretty good frame of that, like a pretty good like base on that. I don't
Right.
really want to spend my time like reading that stuff anymore. I just rather live, you know.
I agree. Yeah. And I feel like
And
this balance like between like creation, like when you create something, you feel really good. And when you consume,
yeah,
so like when you consume too much and you don't create enough, you just don't feel good. So it's like finding that balance.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I also think that when you really hit a good point because when you consume, it's the same in society, right? We have this consumer mentality, and it's always more, 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 more is better. When you consume, it's never going to fill the void that you have.
Right.
It's the same when you go to raw food diet or juice fasting. It can help you get where you want to be, but eventually, mentally, you need to fill the void, right? You have to work on yourself, love yourself, do all these things. That's what's eventually going to give you the most relaxed way of life. I mean, I've known a lot of people that eat a shit diet, but mentally they're far more stable than some that eat the best diet, but aren't mentally that stable. So when you keep consuming and consuming and consuming, it's not going to give you what you need. But when you are like content with yourself and creating things and putting things into the world that will change the world, then you can be satisfied, and then you don't really want to consume that much anymore. So there's this loop there that's pretty interesting, and I think I've reached that now. I think you have too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I noticed you have a very like, I want to say like a simple lifestyle. You know, you like to keep it very
Yeah.
very simple.
Yeah, indeed.
I love it.
Yeah. I
People,
can make it very complicated for myself though, but
yeah, we love to complicate things as humans, but like people are
yeah, I
like,
don't know why.
oh, what are you doing today? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, what's your plan? And I'm like, just live, like just live life, you know.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's funny. Like I used to be very structured and very like rigorous with like all kinds of routines, and now I feel like I want to let that go more. And the funny thing is, like, there's this quote by who is it? I can't remember, but he says like, "I'm an old man and I've known many troubles, but they were all in my head, and most of them never happened." Like
Yeah.
that's what we do as humans, you know. Like all we do is just create our own problems. And I've been periods in my life where I was very busy with that. Like everything was a problem, and then in the end, everything turned out fine. So now I'm more like, well, if everything turns out fine, I don't have to worry about it, you know?
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, if people are watching this and they're really curious about changing their life, um, I would say just write it down for yourself. Like, why do you want to change your life, and what makes you want to change your life?
Yeah.
And then find the reasons why you should do that, and then see what kind of obstructions you can find too, and put them side by side, and then weigh them down. And then find the people that inspire you the most, but make sure that you make your own version of it and then it applies fully to you. And don't try to emulate them, but just simply use what you can find from them for your own good, and then make your own path. If I've done that from the beginning, of course, everything happens for a reason, and I'm now here, and this is how it all went out. But that would have saved me a lot of headaches and a lot of trouble, you know?
Yeah.
That would be great. And there's so many people out there that can help you. If like, I'm always someone, I will do it myself. I'll find somebody else's resources, make them my own, and do my own thing. But there's so many people out there that can help you. For example, if I resonate with you and I vibe with you, and you really feel like I want to help someone's help, and that's me, then come to me. I have mentorship programs. I can guide you through the entire thing. I can be the accountability, the support. But there's also women out there. There's also other men out there that can help you. And if you really vibe with them, there's nothing wrong with accepting help.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think back and I think like I could have really had some help, especially during my first long juice fast. And that's why I now coach people through their juice fast and offer them my mentorship program, because I don't think if you go through a long one that you should do it unsupported in what shape or form you like. But it's a really intense journey. And that's the thing. It's a journey, and a journey you never do alone, even though you might think you do. Like there's always people in a journey and always aspects to it. So if you need help, just ask for it, man.
But
It's really
Nathan, asking for help is not manly. You got to be manly. No, I'm just.
Yes, you have to be manly. Well, that's the thing. Like, that's a big part of where I noticed that when I started my mentorship program, at first I thought it would just be women asking for help, but all of them are men. So men do ask for help, but there is indeed this stigma where you're like, well, raw food's probably not going to make you manly. Showing emotions is not manly. Accepting yourself and loving yourself is not manly. Loving others and accepting others is not manly. Not wanting violence is not manly. Asking for help is specifically not manly.
Right.
That's all bullshit, man. That's all bullshit, man. If you look at the greatest men that ever lived, in whatever capacity or what sense or what evil or good they were, they all had help. And if you look at it, all of them had a woman on the side supporting them. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you don't have support, you're not going to get anywhere in this world, man. Like, whether you like it or not, you're still part of a collective, even though if you're not agreeing with this collective, right? So that's why communities and people around you and helping you is very important. Be it a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Whatever you vibe with. But
yeah,
if you're watching this and you really want to change, you just can't do it alone. Get help, man. If this is really important for you, save up the money, get someone to help you, and get where you want to be, because otherwise you're just going to turn around in circles. You're never going to get anywhere. Why wait?
Yeah, 100%. I really like that. All right. Well, I think that's a good point to leave off here. You still there, Nathan? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace and love.